So you remember in those older cars, when you got to certain mileage intervals, you were due for certain services. You know, the old cars used to be every 3750, and then beginning in '01 on the Civics, they changed the oil change interval to every 5,000 miles. And in the four cylinders, the CRVs, Elements, the four-cylinder Accords, they fell into that 5,000 mile category as well. Your newer cars, the maintenance is tailored to how you drive the vehicle. And what I mean by that, now it doesn't record this, but what it does do is it monitors things like coolant temperature fluctuations, shift patterns, how far you're driving. The very short version, to dumb it down, is if you're an aggressive driver or if you do a lot of stop and go driving, it's going to shorten up those intervals. If you're a little gentler on the car or you do a lot of highway driving, it's going to extend those intervals. Auto stop, its main goal is to basically not use fuel while the car is sitting there for that 20-30 seconds while we're waiting for the light to change. Now at the end of the day, what it's monitoring is not so much the auto stop, is it's monitoring the speedometer showing 0. So that's where it notices whether you're doing that constant stop and go commuting. But the auto stop really will have no bearing on that at all. So the newer cars, I'm gonna give you some really bad news when it comes to batteries here. So the newer cars that have that auto stop feature, and actually a lot of the cars in general, because of how much electronics is on them, they've gone to what they call a glass matte battery. And so that battery is certainly designed for that reason. It basically holds its charge, it gathers its charge much quicker. The downside is they're quite a bit more. Where'd Brad? Yeah. About 250, 260-ish? Yeah, 260. Yeah, for those batteries. So again, with all that technology, the only way to support that is they have to change the technology that supports that. So the batteries used to be able to pick up for $185, $190 now are almost $100 more for that. But again, that's unfortunately with the design of the cars, that's the way they had to go to keep that charge up on it. With the maintenance, obviously Passport owner, any other V6 owners? All right, I'm going to use you two as an example, and then I'll talk to everybody else. Okay. So with the V6 engines, typically the oil changes are going to go between 5,000 and 6,000 miles. Now, it all depends on how you drive. I've seen some of the V6 owners go a little bit longer, but I'd say the average is kind of in that range. Everybody else with the four cylinders, do not be surprised if you go anywhere between 6,000 and 9,000 miles between oil changes. Now, again, that all monitors how you drive the vehicle, but with the 020 oil that's in there, and that's in all of them, it's a full synthetic oil. So it does have a lot of additives in there and detergents. From a lubrication standpoint, it can absolutely go that long. But here is the important part. Please pay attention to this. If you can remember with those older Hondas, those of you who had them, when we were doing oil changes every 3,000 miles, oil consumption was never an issue because you were changing oil frequently enough. But now that you're going double, if not 3 times that amount, oil consumption is a very legitimate thing. And what do I mean by that? Any internal combustion motor is going to burn oil internally. It's just a natural occurrence. So imagine whenever you cook, you let something sit on the stove for a while, eventually it boils down. Well, we're going to talk about temperatures here in a little bit, if I have somebody, of how crazy hot your engine gets. It's remarkable, these temperatures. So even that oil, as advanced as it is going to break down over time. Now, with the maintenance, have any of you had a chance yet to kind of cycle through and see where it shows the oil percentage remaining? A couple of you? So you can do it one of 2 ways. Either use a little button up on the dash to change from trip A to trip B. You can also use the gauge on the left on your steering wheel where it cycles through it on the display, or you can go into the vehicle settings as well. Here's the important part about that oil. When you get to 50%, please check your oil. If you're not comfortable doing it, please come see us. Because what we don't want to do is find, now again, if you've been really gentle on the car, that oil going that far might be perfectly fine. But what we don't want to do is find that maybe it's a quarter too low and you're at 8,000 miles. And we're going to have to gauge that and check that every couple of times. If you look in the owner's manual, Honda has a little scapegoat in there. They say check your oil every time you fill up with gas. I've got 2 Hondas. I work for Honda. I don't do it. It's a little redundant. But again, to get a gauge of how your car is consuming that oil, just check it at that 50% mark. If you find that it's a quarter too low, don't be terribly surprised. It could be a natural occurrence.